Chevre. How are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. Everyone is healthy, strong, and happy physically and spiritually. Today, we're in the midst of a triple header. Today is Hoshana Rabbah, a guten kvittel to everyone. And we go straight into Shemini, Atzeres, and Simchas Torah. 3 days in a row of awesome spiritual powers and energy. So today, Mr. Hashem will speak a thought for the festival, connecting Hoshana Rabbah, Shemini Atzeres, and Simchas Torah. The truth is that in a certain sense, each one is a mesechta b'fnei atzmai, and it's very difficult to speak one thought for all three, but we'll try our best, and we hope it's not going to be too long. So as usual, we'll start with a pasuk from Tehillim, and the title today is In God We Trust, Part 2. And in truth, this is really a continuation from what we spoke previously before that about Hashem's care and compassion. And we're still on that theme to a certain extent. And today we'll say the pasuk, Ach toiv v'chesed yidefuni kol yimei chayoi v'shavti b'veis adinoi li'oirech yomim. So the pasuk says, may only goodness and kindness follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Hashem for many years. Hoshana Rabbah is the day where we say it's Hamtokas Hadinim. It's the last day of the judgment that started on Rosh Hoshana and Yom Kippur, and the real final seal we say is on Hoshana Rabbah. And as we said in the words of the Tfilos today, that it's Hamtokas Hadinim. We've sweetened all judgments, and this is what the pasuk over here means. We all could say confidently, B'toich Klal Yisrael, B'seichechi Klal Yisrael. Every single one of us could say loud and clear to Hashem, because we trust in Hashem, and we've davened. So we say, Ach toiv v'chesed, yirdefuni kol yimei chai. So first we say, Ach. Ach means only toiv v'chesed, which means reveal toiv, that it's chesed, that we see it as chesed. And yirdefuni means it's chasing after me. Al derech, we spoke other times, the words gzeires toivis. What does it mean when it's gzeires toivis? Gzeires toivis means it must happen, regardless of my circumstances. It's unconditional. The same thing if I say yidefuni means, even if I'm not up to par necessarily, still the goodness will chase me. It will reach me no matter what. So today is Hoshana Rabbah, and it's explained that the words Hoshana Rabbah means a great salvation. So there's an unbelievable connection to Parshas HaShavua that we're learning now, Parshas V'zois HaBracha, which is amazing. The pasuk is amazing, Rashi is amazing, and you couldn't get a more direct connection to Hoshana Rabbah. What does it mean, a great salvation? A salvation that could only come from Hashem. And Rabbah, since all salvations come from Hashem, and Hashem is infinite, so we're talking about Hoshana Rabbah, the great salvation, which is infinite and has no limits whatsoever. There's a pasuk in this week's parsha, Kapitel Lamed Gimel, pasuk Chavtes. It says, Ashrecha Yisrael, Michamecha, Am Noishe B'Hashem, Mogin Ezrecha, Vashecherev Gavasecha, Vikachashu Eivecha Loch, V'ata Bo Misei Mesidrech. But listen to these words, Ashrecha Yisrael. What makes us fortunate? Who is like you? That Michamecha, Am Noishe B'Hashem, a people delivered by Hashem, a people that Hashem saves them. Hoshana Rabbah, Am Noishe B'Hashem. We are special, we are fortunate that we're the only ones that have the special connection that we spoke already in the previous Yurim, and therefore our deliverance, our salvation is the only one which is Taka Rabbah, because we have the special connection, and therefore the salvation is infinite. And when you look at Rashi, I don't know if there's any other Rashi similar to this. What does Rashi say? What is Moshe Rabbeinu saying here? Ashrecha Yisrael. La'acher sheporet lehem habrachas, after Moshe made specific brachas to the tribes of Israel. Omalem, he told them, Mali lifrit lechem. Why should I specify for you? Klal davar, bottom line is, the summing up of the matter is, Hakol shalachem. Everything is yours, every blessing. So the kid says, like someone who says, I have no more words. There's nothing I can add. Go for it. The sky is not the limit. That's what it means over here. Look at these words. Hakol shalachem. What am I going to start talking about? Details. Whatever you could think of is included. Whatever you want is included. Even beyond your wildest imaginations. That's also included. That's what it means. Hakol. It's like saying, the Eibishter is kel yachol. Hakol shalachem. Whatever it is in the Eibishter's powers to accomplish, shalachem. Why? Because we are Am Noishe B'Hashem. In other words, that is what Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu is saying over here. Ashrecha Yisrael, you know why? Because Hakel Shalachem. Because you have a special connection to the Eibishter, there are no words. Everything is yours. All is yours. There are no limits. Arap Alag Bolis. Such an amazing Rashi. Amazing words. Now if you look in the Balaturim over here, the Balaturim on the words Ashrecha, on this pasuk he says Beis b'Meseres. Once is Ashrecha Yisrael over here in our pasuk, and then another pasuk where it says Ashrecha v'Toivlach. So l'chayre, that's what same idea like what Rashi is saying. Ashrecha Yisrael, we are fortunate. In other words, why are we fortunate? Because you have a special connection to the Eibishter. Ata v'chatora mikol ha'amin. The Eibishter chose us to have a special, essential connection, and therefore Ashrecha v'Toivlach. Therefore, the Toivlach, as Rashi explains Moshe's words, there are no limits. What's good? Could you limit it? If there's any limit to the good, that means in relation to the higher level of good, it's not really ultimate good. So that means we have to be speaking about what sort of good? Absolute good. What means absolute good? No limits whatsoever. And now we understand, Taka, that is a Hoshana Rabbah, that even in a situation where there were dinim, for whatever reason, there could have been a situation where there's some judgments. But still, today is the day that it's Ach Toiva Chesed Yidufuni, Hoshana Rabbah, everything is good, only good, etc., etc. So that's Hoshana Rabbah. So really, the theme what I want to connect to Hoshana Rabbah, Shemini Atzeres and Simchas Torah is basically Ashrecha Yisrael, Machshavton Yisrael Kodma L'chol Dover. That's the same theme. And we already mentioned before that the whole Chodesh Tishrei really is about how a Jew is connected essentially with Hashem on the deepest, most intimate level. And it comes on every Yom Tov in a different way. Every single one deeper in a certain sense and greater. Yesh b'zeh ma'asheim b'zeh. Each one brings out in a different way and a different quality. So first we explain right now Hoshana Rabbah is Hoshana Rabbah, like Rashi says, Ashrecha Yisrael, Ashrecha v'Toivlach, Am Noishe B'Hashem. That's number one. So it shows how we're so unbelievably special. Then comes Shemini Atzeres. Now Shemini Atzeres is a very interesting paradox. Everyone knows the famous Medrash where the Eibishter says, Boyu v'negalgel, let us be alone, since every other day of the Yom Tov Sukkot, we bring the 70 ayin parim representing the 70 nations, but Shemini Atzeres, we bring par echad, ayel echad, it's connected only to Yisrael. And in English, I'll just read the Medrash. In general, it says, the king invited his sons to a feast for a number of days. When the time came for them to leave, he said, my sons, please stay one more day. It is difficult for me to part with you. So on this day, it's just the being together alone that creates the highest feelings of love. In other words, first let's go back for a second to Shemini Atzeres. How Shemini Atzeres, on the one hand, it's called a regel b'fnei atzmai, a holiday for itself. And that's why we make a Shechianu on Shemini Atzeres. Not like Shvi Shel Pesach. But on the other hand, it's called Shemini Atzeres, an 8th day. So in other words, it comes in continuation to the 7 previous days of Sukkot. And this is a very huge discussion. By the way, there's a fascinating eye-opener Sikha in Chele Gimel, Vayechi, which not so many people realize how it's connected to Shemini Atzeres, and he explains at length the concept of Shemini Atzeres, and it's connected to the Ushpiz, the Chassidische Ushpiz, which is Shemini Atzeres. That's the Rebbe's Chidush. He said, since the Friedrich Rebbe said the 7 days of Sukkot have Chassidische Ushpiz, and the Friedrich Rebbe was the one who revealed that, and the Rebbe said, based on that, the Friedrich Rebbe is Shemini Atzeres. And the Rebbe shows the connection. See there, it's an amazing, amazing Sikha. And in that Sikha, the Rebbe gets into the idea of Shemini Atzeres being a Chag b'fnei atzmai. Now, another thing, which externally you might think that diminishes on the enormity of the Yontif, but in truth, l'chayra, I don't remember if I saw this anywhere, but l'chayra goes together with what's explained about Shavuos, that it might be even the essence, the highest. Shemini Atzeres does not have really a separate mitzvah than any other yontif. We don't do melacha. We have to bring a special korban, fine, but that's not a mitzvah hayom for everybody. And the Rebbe also brings a Rashi, by the way, where it says regel b'fnei atzmai she'ein yoshem b'sukkah. How is it categorized as a regel b'fnei atzmai that we don't sit in the sukkah? So again, it doesn't tell us how it's a regel b'fnei atzmai by doing something. It just says because we don't do malacha. But in truth, maybe you could say that on the contrary, we don't have to do any activities. We don't have to show how we're following Hashem's instructions. There's one level, as Chassidus explains all over, of Rotzain, and then there's a higher level, which is Bala Rotzain. Shemini Atzeres, in a way, is the essence of all essences. Hashem is not requesting from us to do something to make this day special. Whatever He's asking us to do today, He asks on other Yom Tovim. It's a Yom Tov, fine. But why? Because over here, it's like the Medrash says, it's about just Him and us and Him. We love each other, we're spending time together. It's like imagine you have a couple and they love each other so much, they don't have to do any activities. They don't have to go shopping, they don't have to go on a trip, they don't have to go bowling, they don't have to do anything. They just love spending time with each other. What are they doing? Spending time with each other. And that's the greatest love. And that proves that it's the greatest love. They don't have to do anything which is already something external in order to enhance the situation. Just, ano malka b'chidoi. We're just spending time together. And that's the greatest thing. And that's Shemini Atzeres. And that's also what's explained that Shemini Atzeres in a way is the climax. Shemini comes from Atzeres comes from the word to be koilet. It means to gather, assemble. It means the klita. See, this explains it's when everything becomes internalized and absorbed. Rosh Hoshana, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, everything now becomes totally one into the essence of the essence. In a way, Shemini Atzeres is like the quintessential of the Yom Tovim. Why? Because it's just spending time together. Even though we spoke Yom Kippur is Nila, but then Yom Kippur we had all those things that we had to do special, which is no other day. But on Shemini Atzeres, it's just the spending time together. So that tells you how Shemini Atzeres is unbelievable. Even though the truth is a lot more to talk about Shemini Atzeres, how it's also Shemini, it's 8, and 8 shows an infinity. See the Sikha and Chele Gimel. It's a very, very illuminating, profound, beautiful Sikha. But let's go to Simchas Torah and show how Simchas Torah also represents the essence and Machshavtan Shei Yisrael Kodmel Chol Dover. What are we doing at Simchas Torah? We're not sitting and learning from the Torah. Because in the Torah there's two aspects. We spoke about this already many times. There's the intellectual dimension of Torah, even the God intellect. There's the academics, there's the scholarship, the study, etc. But then there's the holiness of Torah. Baruch atah Hashem, asher nosan lanu es Torah soy, the divinity which is in Torah. That's infinite. We can't even call it intellect. We just can call it godliness, godly. And that aspect of Torah is equally connected to every single Yid. The wagon driver, the Rosh Hashiva, the plumber, the electrician, the teacher, the dayan, whoever. And that's what we're celebrating Simchas Torah, and that's where the Torah is covered. And we dance with the Torah. And we see something amazing about Simchas Torah, by the way, as a side point. How just like, usually people speak about the Yom Kippur Jew. Once a year he comes to Shul Yom Kippur and he gets aroused, etc. But by Chabad, the Frierdiker Rebbe's talks, he speaks about the Simchas Torah Jew. And I can tell you, from my personal experience, whichever community you are, if you're in a Chabad community in your neighborhood, you should go there on Simchas Torah. You'll see something which you won't see anywhere else. The entire shul, all the congregants, unified, are just like elevated, like beyond time and space. The time doesn't exist, the clock doesn't exist, no one's running home. They're totally involved in the dancing and the farbringing and spending time together. I've never seen anything like it. Even at my age, after experiencing so many years, I still have an unbelievable joy in sitting in shul on Simchas Torah, during Simchas Torah, and watching the camaraderie and the brotherly love, and how everyone equally is different. Like there's like 364 days a year, and there's Simchas Torah, where we're all united. Sheves Achem Gam Yachad, V'sasef Rosh Yom Yachad. Everyone is the same. There's no Rosh Hashiva, there's no teacher, there's no Rav, there's no electrician, there's no plumber, there's no wagon driver. Everyone's the same. And we're all mamish exalted and in a state of bliss and celebrating our connection to the Eibishter and how Hashem chose us as His nation. Ata v'chatona mikol amen. So that's Simchas Torah, same idea. Machshavten she'yisol kol milchol dover. And in Simchas Torah, the uniqueness comes out in that it's actually a minig. It's mitzad yontiv sheni shel Golius, and in Golius we celebrate the joy of Simchas Torah is usually much greater than Shemini Atzeres because of the akofis that are longer, etc. And this in itself, that it comes about through a minig, shows on the preciousness of Jews, that even though we weren't commanded, we are so deeply connected to Hashem that we knew what He wanted. That's the concept of minig Yisrael Torah, because it shows on how high the Neshamas Yisrael are. So we spoke about the connection of Hoshana Rabbah, Shemini Atzeres, and Simchas Torah as Machshavtan Sheyisol Kod Melchol Dover. And therefore, because we have a connection, and it's Machshavtan Sheyisol Kod Melchol Dover, so therefore in God we trust, as we call today's lesson, and we might continue it for this coming Friday, Mitzvah Shem, for the thought of the week. But just to connect it, today's Ushpiz is the Rebbe Rashab, and the Frierdiker Rebbe is Shemini Atzeres, as we said, and from that we have to say, and the Chassidim throughout the Deir HaShvi from 1950 onwards have looked at Simchas Torah as the Rebbe's day. And it's probably connected to the way I explained it, that in a certain sense, the unification of Hashem with the Yidden on Simchas Torah and the joy of Simchas Torah, which is beyond anything you can imagine. And in a way, it's even more than Purim, because in Purim, nobody gets together in shul like Simchas Torah. So even though we say the Simcha of Purim, in a way, is the greatest Simcha, but you see, there's a certain Simcha that's in Simchas Torah, which is greater than Simchas Purim, because how we see much more Jews become gathered as a congregation on Simchas Torah than on Purim. Anyways, so today's Ushpiz is the Rebbe Rashab. And I said once the word that I'm going to say now in the name of the Rebbe Rashab, but I don't think I said the story, the background, which is this idea of betochen, that because we have a special connection, we have nothing to worry about. And this is an absolute wondrous story. And this is the story of the last Purim that the Rebbe Rashab was on this world. Purim Tofresh Pei, that's Purim 1920. So at that time he said one of his most famous lines, as I'll say in the story, but this time I'm going to read more to it than what someone wrote down, a diary, a record of what happened. And it's printed in Sefer HaSichos, Torah Shalom, page 246 and 250. And he describes over there how the Bolsheviks were already advancing towards Rostov for the months preceding, and there was a great fear, they were great anti-Semites, and they wanted to destroy religion, and it came to Purim. And initially they thought that Purim was going to be private, low-key, etc. because there was already a Isur Godel Me'amam Shola that you're not allowed to gather together, especially in a joyous occasion. That would be one of the gravest sins. Anyways, many people gathered, and they came to the Rebbe Rashab's house on Purim, even though it was a Dova Mesukan Ma'oid, to have all these people gathered together, especially the Balabatim that are also wealthy. One of the worst Atzeres in Russia, communist Russia, was to have money. No one's allowed to have money. Everything belongs to the party, to the government. Anyways, they were sitting over there, and for the first half hour, people were sitting with low key and apprehensive and with fear. Then it says, Ach, k'may chatzi shah, a half hour into the meal, the Rebbe Rashab said, L'chaim. He said L'chaim very joyously to everyone who was there, and we saw his face change. Shemamish k'may ruach achaniyah. It looked like he became a different person. He took out a big amount of money and he brought it forward and he said, Chaver, we have to buy mashke, drink for the Farbrengen. Everyone should say L'chaim and everyone should be happy. And he said everyone should sing. And he started singing and it was very loud that it could be heard from afar. And everyone was very nispol to see the Rebbe Rashab like that. But since he was the happy, as the Rebbe tanz chassidim, since the Rebbe was happy, we didn't worry about anything. And also the Rebbe was looking at each one of us. The Rebbe Rashab was telling us, Chevre, Freilich. The Rebbetzin saw what's going on. It's like she became really scared, and she wanted to make it quiet. She asked that they should be a bit quieter, but if the Rebbe himself was making stronger, so no one was going to stop it. Anyways, the Friedrich Rebbe, who's the Rebbe Rashab's only son, he was also scared. And the Rebbe Rashab, seeing the Friedrich Rebbe was scared, he took his hands and he told him, B'zeh Loshen, he said, Yitzchak, Hob kim meirenit. He said, Yitzchak, don't be scared. Mir veln ganz sein. We shall remain whole. We shall remain complete. Ich mein it ganz sein bechadre chadarim. I don't mean we're going to be whole and complete behind closed doors. Ich mein as mir veln ganz sein mit unser ganze Yetziva Pashtas. We're going to be whole and complete and powerful with full expansion. Those were the most famous, very famous words of Rebbe Rashab that I meant before, and it's well known. But I'm now going to describe what it says further in this scene. His face was unbelievable. The Rebbe Rashab's face was unbelievable when he said these words. And there were giluyim. There were great revelations. And then we heard that there was a decree that came out. There's going to be an inspection, a search from the secret police. And the searching right then and there that night. And now everybody really got scared. Here they're all gathered together, and there's going to be a search party, a search squad, making inspections. And if they'd come and see money on the table, and a Jewish gathering, Sakonis Nefesh is the greatest danger you could imagine. And here there's a large gathering on Purim. Anyways, the Rebbe Rashab, the Rebbe Rashab did not allow us to make any change, even after we heard there's going to be an inspection and a search party. And he said you should continue with the Simcha and the Nigunim, and we never saw things like that. We saw revealed miracles from him that night. And then we heard that the search party is coming to the Rebbe's house. Now the fear for most of the Chassidim was unbelievable. Still, the Rebbe Rashab didn't move, and he told everyone, don't move, and you shouldn't stop for a second singing just like before. Make no change. Everything should be mamish going as before. Anyways, the search squad, came into the house of the Rebbe Rashab, and they wanted to make a search, and they were told the Rebbe meanwhile is for bringing in the Zal. So he's busy now. So they said, when should we come back? They said, in a couple hours. So then they stopped and they went away. They went away from the Rebbe Rashab's house, which was right next door to the Zal. Anyways, they came again. And by now, more Chassidim had drank more mashke. The Simcha was even greater. And there was lots of money like on the table where they collected. So when they heard that they're coming right now again, people thought we have to push away, hide the money, hide the mashka, hide everything. The Rebbe Rashab said, don't do anything. And he says, and these were the words, B'zeh Loshen, what the Rebbe Rashab said, Ich, wie ich stehe in dem Matzev, I, the way I stand in my present condition, hab ich klal fazei kemerenit. I have no fear of them whatsoever. Then they came closer to where he was sitting. And then the Rebbe Rashab said these words, amazing. No, we have to start speaking Chassidus, then they got bottled them. They're going to become nullified. And then he started the last Maimer that he said on his life on this planet Earth, the Maimer Divrei HaMaschil, Reishis Goyim Amolek Vacharisei Adei Ovid, which means that Amalek is the first among the nations, and in the end he shall be destroyed. That was the Maimed that the Rebbe Rashab said. A couple of pages later, they have the same story, but with a slightly different words. Somebody might have heard something more, and it says, the Rebbe Rashab said, they came to me into my zal, into my hall, my study hall. Then they dorten gornes battle werden legamri. They're going to become nullified completely. And that's when he started the Maimer. And they actually left. So this is beyond. Those Bolsheviks, the Shoyim, Yimach Shemam, who murdered millions, would treat a life like a fly. They could stamp out a person's life like nothing, and they wouldn't even feel any regret. And some of them, the Friedger writes in different series of his concerning his arrest, that they enjoyed it. There's some people, Rahman al-Stan, are sadists. They enjoy torturing other people. They enjoy causing suffering and misery to others. And over here, the Rebbe Rashab said, I'm going to start saying Chassidus, und sie wollen bottle werden. And they actually left. And that was the way Chassidim that night described. We saw miracles, open miracles. So this is what the theme is of today. Shemini, Hoshana, Rabbah, Shemini, Atzeres, and Simchas Torah. There's a story of the Friedger Rebbe actually, that during World War II, somebody told the Friedger Rebbe, and I think they say it already with more than one person, but somebody or more than one person during the bad years in the early 40s during World War II, somebody told the Friedger Rebbe, could be more than once, we need that the Eibusher should bring salvations and consolations, comfortings. So the Friedger Rebbe said, Medaf ein Yeshua, not a rechte. We need one Yeshua, one salvation, but the right one, the proper one. And this is what it means, Ashrecha Yisrael, Am Noishe B'Hashem. We have Yeshua's Hashem, but it doesn't have to be Yeshua's. It's the one Yeshua which includes all of the Yeshuas. Klal Hadavar, everything is yours, as Moshe Rabbeinu says. All we have to say is the word everything. Und das ist ein Yeshua, not rechte. We should see all these things, Beini Basar. We should have a tremendous celebrations of Shemini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, which will bring out our love to Hashem and Hashem's love to us. And the Simcha of Shemini Atzeres and Simchas Torah will bring us Simcha, a Kol Hoshana Kula, und alle zusammen reintanzen. We'll all together dance into Gula Mitzvah Shlema, Gesundheit und Freilichkeit. Begula Mitzvah Shlema, take it from Yad Mamish. Posting from my home, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, your man in Melbourne.